Hi, my name is James Cook, and I am coming to you live from Indiana. I research retail and real estate for JLL. Taylor Coyne, our co-host, is off today, but we have a very special guest host.
Hi, James. Yes, hi. I'm Charlotte Elstob, and I'm joining you from New York, and I lead global business development for retail and industrial.
Yes, she is our global retail guru at JLL. And today she's joining me for everything we know about retail. This is where we tell you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time.
Yes. So, James, what do you know about retail?
Okay, so my 3 things today, Charlotte. 1, I know the department stores are looking at a smaller footprints as a way forward. I know that ghost kitchens are expanding across the nation and are taking advantage of the new demand for meal delivery because of the pandemic. And I also know that department stores are being, no, I already talked about department stores. Oh, it's going to be a good show.
It's going to be an interesting one. It's definitely, the last one is mall overhauls, I think, shopping malls.
That's exactly right. I know that malls are being redeveloped into all kinds of new different things.
Great. So on that point, should we start with ghost kitchens? What's happening with them?
Yes, because ghost kitchens are the first thing that we know about retail. Ghost kitchens are expanding. So I guess the question really, Charlotte, is, are ghost kitchens taking advantage of the situation of the pandemic, or are they here to stay? So the first thing we need to do is define what a ghost kitchen is. So it's just a professional kitchen that's for delivery only. So it's usually like multi-tenant, so it can host more than one brand under one roof, but you don't go as a diner and get food usually or eat there. It's people ordering through apps like Grubhub and Uber Eats. And the value of them is that it's really relatively inexpensive for a restaurateur to spin up a new brand because it's for delivery only and they don't have to build a dining room and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, Charlotte, ghost kitchens, you're a New Yorker, but you're from the UK. Ghost kitchens, are they a thing in Europe and the UK?
Yes, they are. And in the UK, we refer to them as dark kitchens, just a slight nuance. Probably the 2 main leaders there are Deliveroo, Editions, I think it's Editions, yep, and Karma Kitchens. And what we've actually seen as a result of COVID is where some restaurants have gone into kind of what we call administration, or over here in the US, bankruptcy. What we're seeing is these dark kitchens, these ghost kitchens, sign on and take over this restaurant space to use as a dark kitchen. We're typically seeing this, however, in what we call like the London villages. So the kind of the suburbs on the outer edges of the city. We're not really seeing that kind of in central London, but out in the residential areas.
And so that's interesting. So they've definitely been around. People are talking about them there. New twist that I'm just now seeing with ghost kitchens is like the definition is you don't pick up food there. It's for delivery only. Yeah. But now I'm seeing ghost kitchens that will have a pickup area. For example, I believe it was Kitchen United has a location in Scottsdale, Arizona, where you can walk in and order on a kiosk and they bring the food out to you. Also, there's a food hall. I forget. I think it's also Kitchen United is taking over Wells Street Market in Chicago, which is a food hall. But I think they're going to run it for delivery now and then maybe turn it into more of a food hall thing. I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think that makes sense. And if you kind of look at what Chelsea Market have done here in New York, you know, we wanted to get food. In the moment, New York, you can only eat outside. Indoor dining is banned at the moment. So all these restaurants have suddenly got these hatches on the outside of Chelsea Market, and you can kind of order your food on an app and you can go and pick it up from then, or order it at the hatch and they provide it to you. So I think it's definitely something we're going to see more of, because that's what how you kind of get your food from Chelsea Market at the moment if you want to order there.
Yeah, for our viewers who aren't familiar, Chelsea Market is a wonderful market / food hall in the meatpacking district. It is now also the headquarters of, or a headquarter of Google. Doesn't Google own it now?
Yeah,
And they have
because
their
Google's headquarters is over the road, and they've built that building as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Built that building.
So when you say hatch for our American viewers, is that
Oh,
like
sorry.
is that like a
Right.
window that pulls up and then there's like a screen and they hand you the food?
Yeah. So I don't know what you'd call it.
I mean, hatch is a word I would use. I just
yeah, kind of like a
roll-up
kiosk,
window.
like just a window onto the outside where you can go and order your food, and like a counter. Maybe a counter is a good way of putting it, like a counter that you just go up to and you can order your food. So
I live in the boonies, so there's just not. I'm so rural. There's nobody that would even deliver to me. So I'm not doing a lot of delivery except on the occasional time when I'm traveling or something during the pandemic. But I'm doing a lot of takeout. So would you say that your sort of delivery has gone up quite a bit since pandemic? Yeah.
Definitely. In fact, I actually ordered in last night. So you're kind of really putting me on the spot there. But no, I think it definitely has. And I think it's really sad, but you want to support the local restaurants in New York where we can't do indoor dining. And we've had a snowstorm in New York the last few days, and it's piled high with snow. And most of the restaurants aren't even offering, I mean, it's very chilly when you can go outside, but they're not even offering outdoor dining at the moment because there's so much snow around. So, you are supporting them by ordering takeaway, and also sometimes just can't be bothered to cook. So you do it then as well.
So outdoor dining in sub-freezing temperatures. I have done it. I'm thinking in Whistler.
Nice.
I once ate and drank outdoors. I think maybe the drinks helped a lot. There was a heater though. I mean, are you doing any outdoor dining in the winter?
We have done a bit. I actually went for brunch on Saturday to a kind of diner outside in Soho, and it was cold. You kept your coats on. There was a heater, but it's also kind of, New York apartments are so small. They're not designed to be spending every single minute of the day inside. So sometimes you do need that variety, and you just adapt and you order lots of hot drinks at the same time, and you kind of get on with it. But yeah, it's kind of, if you want to eat outside, it's kind of the only, or if you want to eat out at all at the moment. And it's been like this since about Thanksgiving, I think. So and we had it all over the summer, but granted, weather was a little bit nicer then.
Yeah. So now is a time that's really beneficial for delivery, for ghost kitchens. You've got Kitchen United expanding. Reef Technology is another one. They're doing these things called Reef Neighborhood Kitchens, where they're taking existing parking lots and putting, I guess you'd call them almost like mobile home type pods,
like
but they're containers that are like mobile ghost kitchens. So you could quickly spin up a new delivery location for a brand. Cloud Kitchens is another one, delivery only kitchen that was developed by Uber founder Travis Kalanick. There's a whole bunch going on. According to PitchBook, investment in ghost kitchens rose 11% to $3 billion last year from the previous year. So it seems like there's a lot of venture capital behind this. What do you think? So does it have legs? Let's talk a year or two down the road. Everybody, I'm gonna not want to do takeout when I don't have to as much. Do you think? What do you think? Does it stick?
I think it sticks. And I think what we've seen in New York as well is where so many people have been forced to adapt. And New York has such great restaurants that in order for some of them to survive, you're now seeing Michelin-starred restaurants go on these delivery apps, and you can now get that food. Or I know at New Year, you were seeing them offer takeout, but it was like a recipe box, and you cooked your own steak, and you cooked it to how they would cook it. And I think the access that you can get to those foods without having to go to a restaurant, I think is invaluable. You're now seeing the likes of Coyne, which is a really popular Italian restaurant here. You can now order them on the Caviar app. And, Coyne is one of the hardest places to get a table in New York, but now we can get it in our living room. So I think whether the volume stays as it is, but I think it's not going anywhere anytime soon, because people can now access that food a lot easier, and kind of, you don't necessarily have to have the expensive bottle of wine at the restaurant. You can have your own wine, but you can have the expensive food,
Absolutely. All right. So, everybody, that's Charlotte's take. Keep investing in dark kitchens, and we'll go from there. All right. Now it's time to move on to this is the second thing that we know about retail. We're talking about department stores. It has been a rough time in the US for department stores. I'm assuming globally it's a
Yeah.
similar story.
It really is. Definitely. We've had in the UK a number of bankruptcies of our department stores, and it's very much one of the hot topics when we're talking with international landlords at the moment about kind of who is going to backfill that space and what the future is of some of these brands.
Yeah. In the US, let's see. So since COVID began, we've had 4 bankruptcies of what I would call mall-based department stores, like your Neiman Marcus, your J.C. Penney. It was a trend that we'd already been seeing for a long time, but the COVID just ramped everything up. I was just looking at sales data for the holidays, and sales at department stores dropped by over 10% over the holiday season. People were still spending money on the holidays. They were just doing it at places like Walmart and Target that are not mall based. Our oldest existing department store is Lord and Taylor, and they are liquidating. They're closing all of their locations. J.C. Penney's cutting back on locations. Macy's said it's going to close 125 locations over the next 3 years. So it seems like the way forward for department stores is to reinvent themselves. Really, it seems like the consumer is moving away from what the traditional department store has been, which is like it's the everything store.
Yeah.
I love department stores, Frank. Are you a department store fan?
Yes, I am. I think there's a kind of a time and a place for them, but no, there's. I was very loyal to John Lewis when I was in the UK. That's a very popular department store, and yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a trip to Bloomingdale's when you're in New York? So, no, I'm definitely a fan.
I was just watching Tangent Time. I was watching a movie where they rob Harrods. Have you seen that? It's on Netflix. It just came out. I'm totally blanking. It's about this couple during COVID, and they rob Harrods in
Oh my
London.
goodness, I need to watch it though. And I mean, Harrods is so iconic, and that's kind of one of my favorite like holiday Christmas trips is that you go to Harrods and see the lights and go and see that. So no, yeah, I mean,
so it got me so jazzed up because apparently because Harrods was closed for COVID, they were able to film
of course
in the store. And yeah, there's a lot of retail eye candy in that movie.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Totally blanking on what it's called and who the names of the stars, but it's new. It's on Netflix.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Not a great movie, but
just to see Harrods, yeah.
The Harrods stuff is fantastic. So anyway, department stores are really rethinking what their value proposition is. They don't need 1,000+ locations across the US. Or maybe they do, but they don't need the large, whatever, 100, 150,000 square foot footprints.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are looking to smaller stores. One is Macy's. They have now opened 2 Market by Macy's stores. These are not in malls. They're at lifestyle centers. The second location just opened up 3 weeks ago. They're both in Texas. I saw some footage of them online, and they reminded me a lot of Neighborhood Goods. Which you've been to the Neighborhood Goods. Well, we talked about Chelsea Market. That's where Neighborhood Goods is.
Yeah, another great brand or multi-brand. Yeah.
Yeah. So Neighborhood Goods, it calls itself the department store of the future. They're focused on digital native brands. Market by Macy's is about 20,000 square feet. I don't know if Neighborhood Goods is quite that big.
No, I can't remember the size now, but I'm going to say it's not quite that large. Certainly not in New York anyway.
Yeah, right. Now, Neighborhood Goods also has 2 locations in Texas. Oh, yeah. I'm noticing a distinct thing here. Yeah. Here's another connection. So Market by Macy's was the brainchild of Rachel Schechtman, who was the founder of Story, which is also in meatpacking in New York. Yeah. She went to Macy's to be their brand experience officer. She's since left. but she helmed this sort of like, let's take what we've learned at Story about experiential retail and spin that out into Macy's. So they had a bunch of Story stores in stores at Macy's. Story, interesting concept. The idea is it's like we're going to do a store like a magazine. So there's different.
Yes, I remember this now. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So there's different editions every month. When I went there, most recently, the theme was circuses. I think they were doing a partnership with, I think there was a P.T. Barnum movie that came out a few years ago.
Oh, Greatest Showman.
Yes. So that was coming out. So it was a partnership with that. And so everything was circus themed, but they'll do, every couple of months, they do a different format, which is great because
it's certainly innovative and keeps it interesting for the consumer that it's something different each time.
Yeah, always something new to come back and check out. So this Market by Macy's, the reason why I said it reminds me of Neighborhood Goods is they've got a cafe. That looks like the kind of place you'd want to hang out at. They serve coffee, they serve beer, they serve wine. They have Market by Macy's has an apothecary, which the design of it was really elevated. It had a really, trying to think of how to describe it, like white tile, and it just had this
like more classic design, kind of not necessarily feeling like you're in a department store, more somewhere kind of more boutique.
Yeah, absolutely. Very boutique feeling. And then the selection, of course, they're still selling Macy's goods. So that's a difference from Neighborhood Goods, which is all these digital native brands. But it is a selection of Macy's goods. Anyway, watch some video of it online. I'd suggest checking it out. It looks cool. I think they have plans to open more. It seems like everybody's in the department store world is kind of focusing on this curation, or on the other end of things is doing value retail. So they're also doing, Macy's also has the Backstage brand, also smaller square footage, but that's more of like a TJ Maxx where it's all about value.
Almost like that outlet proposition.
Yeah. When I was in London, I walked past the TJ Maxx and it was called something else. What is it called?
TK Maxx.
TK Maxx. I wonder why that is.
I know, and I always keep meaning to Google the answer to this because it confuses me every time. I'm like, what's the J and what's the K? Like, why the difference? But no, it's TK Maxx at home.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So there are a lot of opportunity, especially if you're a department store chain, you're going into restructuring, so you're going to handle that debt. There's a huge opportunity for you to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
So the question is, do they do it? And what are you hearing, Charlotte, out in the world as you're talking to people about the future of department stores?
Yeah, so I think the ones that are surviving, I mean, if we just look at the ones in the UK, kind of the prime ones on Oxford Street as an example, you've got John Lewis there. They've added in restaurants. They offer classes. They've both adapted their rooftops. The Selfridges rooftops are a really popular restaurant to go to. And John Lewis have their own rooftop offering as well. All of them have different bars and cafes, and they're really trying to kind of find another reason for somebody to kind of increase their dwell time in their store and make it another purpose to visit their store. I've gone to Selfridges just for the restaurant before. And actually they've teamed up. Selfridges have done a really good job. They've teamed up with kind of different chefs and different people for their different restaurants. So it's not solely kind of Selfridges branded. They've done some really good partnerships and they have some really good offering there. So it's very catered to the kind of more upmarket customer, upscale customer you get at Selfridges, but it's done really well. And then they also have, similar to Harrods, they also have the Selfridges food hall as well. So they're really adding in kind of everything that you could possibly need in that one store, but making it just a bit more interesting.
I think, yeah. So my final take, I think, is totally in line with you around department stores, that if we have fewer of them and we make them more destinational in nature, I think about like Macy's Herald Square flagship location. I think that where tourists are coming from around the world to visit, think of Harrods, where, people come from around the world to visit and experience it. I think that's probably going to be the future of that traditional department store.
I agree, definitely.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to here is the third thing that we know about retail. And let's talk a little bit about malls. Malls are getting an overhaul. And I think in a lot of ways, the story around malls is a continuation of that story around department stores.
Absolutely.
We need fewer of them. And the ones that we do have need to be one of a kind destinations. So no more cookie cutter malls or fewer cookie cutter malls.
Yeah.
Is the take on malls, is that similar in Europe or in England?
Yeah, and I think there's still going to be, and I know you guys people over here call them something slightly different, but what we'd call like convenience malls with the supermarket and your like local stores. I think what we've seen in COVID is where we've all stayed closer to home. There's absolutely still an essential need for those. But I think you're right. I think the shopping malls of the future are going to be kind of the destination ones. There's going to be fewer of them, but they're going to be the best ones in the best places to go shopping in the area. But yeah, they're certainly challenged. But in the UK, you'll have a mixture of some on the out of town and then some kind of in the prime city centre. So it depends where they are. But no, I think they're still very much relevant, but it's going to be kind of survival of the fittest, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And so you're kind of talking about that distinction, right, between the mall, which is destinational as apparel and accessories and department stores, and then what I would call like we're a neighborhood community center, grocery anchored centers, power centers, which right now during COVID, those
are doing so well. Yes.
Yeah. Malls are just really hurting. Mall traffic is way down. We also know, we're talking about department stores closing. If you own a mall and you get more than one of your department stores that close at the same time, it really makes it tough for that mall to continue to be a going concern. But we've been hearing a lot of adaptive reuse around malls. Are you a Fortnite player?
I'm not, but I do know what it is.
It's a game the kids play. Well, anyway, Epic Games, creator of Fortnite, they're redeveloping a mall in Cary, North Carolina into offices. Whole bunch of that. Google redeveloped a mall outside of Los Angeles. Here in Indiana, the Fair Oaks Mall in Columbus is being redeveloped into a community health hub. So there's all kinds of opportunities for redevelopment.
Exactly. In New York here, the Neiman Marcus in Hudson Yards that was kind of think only opened just about a year before coronavirus hit. That's, we understand, is being kind of marketed to office tenants because that's a little bit unusual where it sits above the majority of the retail. So it's quite a good one to repurpose. But even at home, it's a huge topic that we're talking about with landlords at the moment. And I know Hammerson, one of the major landlords in the UK, they've come out and said that they're repurposing one of the department stores in their shopping malls into kind of a 300 bed residential block of apartments. So it's definitely something kind of offices, residential, all these different alternative uses that we can repurpose that space into is being explored.
Yeah. So many opportunities. Malls, the good thing about them is they're in great locations, which makes them great opportunities. Well, Charlotte, we're running out of time, man.
No, look at that.
That was fast.
Very fast.
Just a couple of quick notes. One, we do a podcast. It's called Where We Buy. You can stream it at wherewebuy.show, or it's on any of your podcast apps. I just talked to Carlos Aragon at Ipsos about click and collect and how retailers are doing it well and some are doing it not so well. So I would urge you to check that out. That's a great interview. And then on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to everything we know about retail. Hit that subscribe button. Our next live episode is going to be next Thursday, February 11th at noon Eastern, or you can watch the replay anytime. And Charlotte, I want to thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. I'm so glad to be back.
Yes. And this has been everything we know about retail.